So one of the things I see so much going on in the Hackamore, people riding them, they ride that horse in the Hackamore for, a year, or some less, some more, but then they want to go and advance that horse from the Hackamore into a two-rein or into some kind of a bridle or something. And after a year's time getting ridden in that Hackamore, that horse really doesn't necessarily ride any different than it did when you started. And if anything, what I see is those horses are stiffer than they were before they got advanced from a snaffle to a Hackamore. And it's because of the way people are using these Hackamores. And I've had a lot of conversations with guys that have used Hackamores a lot in their life, and they say that, I don't know what the big mystery is. Take a Hackamore and you pull on it. That's how it works. And I think where people are running into a problem is that they are treating it as if there's some big mystery, and treating that Hackamore as if there's something different you got to do. And so to me, this is what people need to be doing differently, but it's not a big mystery. It's just a different way of thinking about it. So when we're in the snaffle bit stage, and for however long you're riding that horse in the snaffle bit, you're using that snaffle, and it's the signal that snaffle gives to the horse is, you need to be here. And then you engage it again, and that signal is, now you need to be here. And so in that time with the snaffle bit, what we're doing is we are using the snaffle bit to send a really, really clear, not a very sophisticated, but a very, very clear signal about where we want that horse to be. And that way, the horse can learn what our body language is, and learn what the other aids are, specifically our feet or seat, and learn how to get where we're trying to put them. And so we're using the snaffle for a real clear signal. I'm trying to put you here. And then the secondary signals of our seat and our body language and looking where we want to go, et cetera, the horse starts to pick up on that. Because they're so perceptive of movement and body language, they start to pick up on that. And so even for me, those first handful of rides that I put on a colt are usually in a Hackamore. And that's specifically because I'm more comfortable doing it that way. It's just kind of a comfort blanket thing for me. But in that time with the Hackamore, those first 10 rides or whatever, I'm doing the same thing with that Hackamore, as I'm telling that horse where I want him to be, so that he can kind of learn what some of these other signals and what the aids are trying to help him with, and put him there. And so, and then I go to the snaffle and go back to you need to be here. You need to be here. So through that time that we're riding him in a snaffle, however long that is, that should be what we're looking for. What we're teaching that horse is that horse going where I want it to off my aids, and the snaffle just being the signal to go there, and then all the getting there is off of our aids. So by the time we get to the Hackamore, and that's something to think about when riding the snaffle, is that what I'm teaching this horse? Is how to get where I want him to be? Because that's really what we're trying to do. So by the time we advance into the Hackamore, and that's a good catalyst there, people say, well, how do I know when it's time to advance him? Well, when that horse is riding more off my aids and less off that snaffle than anything else. When that snaffle, I'm only picking it up to tell the horse I'm going to ask you to be somewhere else. And then that horse goes there. And so when we've got to that stage, well, we can advance to the Hackamore. So in that Hackamore, by the time we advance there, that horse should be doing most of its movement off of our aids, off of our body, aids beside the snaffle. And the snaffle is really just to initiate the sequence. By the time we get to the Hackamore, we're no longer giving the signal of, you need to be here. What we're now giving, that signal that we're giving with the Hackamore, is, don't be here anymore. Don't be where you are anymore. And so I'm not going to tell you where you are, where I do want you to be. You need to find that yourself. The horse, I'm telling the horse this, that I'm not gonna put you where you need to be. I'm just gonna tell you you don't need to be here anymore. And that horse needs to find where I do want him to be by relying on my aids. I still use my seat and all my aids exactly the same way, but I'm making that horse be responsible for finding the spot that I do want him to be. And if he gets in a spot that wasn't right, if he fails, that's not a big deal. I just, with the hackamore, say, nope, not here either. Don't be here. And he'll find another spot. Nope, don't be here. And then when he finds the spot, boom, I disengage. Yep, that's the answer. They learn from the release, not from the pressure. So to me, that's the only mystery of the hackamore, is just a change in your mind from I want you to be here to I don't want you to be here anymore. And that hackamore gives that signal, and then that horse finds where I do want him to be. If I ride him all through that hackamore time, just exactly the same way I was riding with the snaffle and putting him everywhere, well, I may as well just stay in the snaffle because I haven't really advanced him. I've just changed his headgear. And if I ride him like that, and don't get me wrong, sometimes you have to. Like, I'm not a Jedi, and nobody else is either. In training, and especially if we're doing a job, sometimes you have to put them where you want them to be. But in that advancement stage, as we're trying to advance those horses from a beginning hackamore horse to something that's ready to advance then into a two-rein or however else you're planning on doing it. That's what we have to do is allow them to find that spot that we need them to be, that we want them to be, by relying on our body language and our signals. And if we don't do that, like I say, we may as well just stay in the snaffle bit, because if I'm constantly telling this horse where to be and how to get there, and not letting him take some responsibility for it and make some decisions, why then I really can't advance. I can put a different bit in his mouth. I can say, well, I've rode him in a hackamore, now I'll put a two-rein on. Well, now I'm just doing the exact same thing that I was doing in the snaffle bit, but I've got an even smaller hackamore. Well, that smaller hackamore, the diameter, of course, is sharper, so the signal's sharper, and hopefully after a year, the horse darn sure operates off that signal. But I haven't advanced anything. I'm still doing it all for the horse. So then let's just stay with the two-rein idea. But then if I go to that two-rein, and I've been riding him the same in the snaffle and the same in the hackamore, well, then when I get to two-rein, nothing's going to be different. I'm just riding him in a smaller hackamore with a bit in his mouth. And so then I stay there indefinitely. And he's always a two-rein horse. He's always a beginning two-rein horse. It's very, very difficult to advance him to where he's riding off that bit more, and where he's got a real clear signal off those reins. And there again, once we get to that two-rein stage, we're doing that even more so. The don't be here anymore. But now we're doing it with our reins. And by then that horse is advanced enough that he's really going off of the direction we turn our head and the way we move our body. He's always already looking for where he does need to be. That's the same as if you just advance him into like a grazer bit or something like that. If you don't change what you're doing, all you've done is just change the headstock, or change the mouthpiece, or change the whatever. You haven't made any changes that can help that horse advance. And like I said, I see it all the time that we can change that equipment, and that's fine. We want to advance a horse into a more advanced piece of equipment, but then we have to change our signal too. We have to change what we're doing, and give that horse an opportunity to foster their own feel, and we have to give them the opportunity to advance themselves through that more sophisticated signal. And so if we just ride them the same way all the time, and are always telling them where to go. I want you over here, and help them get over there. Well, shoot, they just never get better. They just get a different head stall on, and a lot of them, in fact, get worse. They just get stiffer and get to where you have to help them, where you have to help them more. So in terms of these, these stages that we go through, I think that's what people need to keep track of is when do we advance the horse? Well, when the horse starts going off of our body language and starts going off of our seat, and then then the next advancement is, well, when in this piece of equipment where he's doing that even better, and so on and so forth. And if you just wool around that hackamore just like it was a snaffle bit, you're gonna get a horse that, well, I rode him for a year, now it's time to put him in two-rein. It's the same horse. You really haven't advanced him. And of course, I'm talking West Coast vaquero style increments of advancement, because that's where I'm from. That's what I know. But it doesn't have to be like that. With any discipline, there's stages that we advance a horse to, and so we have to have a plan of what we're advancing to and why, and what's the difference between a beginner and an advanced horse. This one moves more off the seat. This one moves more off the breath. I rode a Grand Prix dressage horse the other day, and I was having a little trouble getting him to pee off, and he knew how to do it, but I was driving him too much. I was driving him too forward. I wasn't using my seat good enough, and I was just tinkering around trying to find. I knew what I was doing wrong, but I didn't know what part of me was doing it, and so I just really pressed towards his pole, like with that area right under my belly button, and drove, and boom, he went and did it. I said, oh, okay. Having not ever made a Grand Prix dressage horse, I didn't know that was the part of me he was supposed to be steering off of, was that area between my pubic bone and my belly button. And the gal that trained him, she was giving me a lesson, she saw me do it. She said, there you go, right there. Press right there, and that's how you steer these horses. Oh, okay, cool. But you have to know what you're advancing to and why. So I hope that didn't make it even more mysterious to somebody. Thank you so much to the Patreon crew. You guys are the reason we're able to do this and do the extra things and really do all the YouTube videos too. We wouldn't be able to make it work without you guys. So thank you so much. And any of the rest of you can jump on and watch any of these extra kind of things that we do on Patreon and see what's going on there. So check that out if you can.